Today on the Ownership Advantage, we're talking all things video with someone who has helped clients rack up over 20 million impressions and turn them into real results. Jackson Tritt is the founder and creative director of JTX Media, an Austin-based video production agency known for delivering scroll-stopping content for brands like Volvo, HBO, and Vice. So whether you're building your brand, planning a campaign, or just want better content that actually converts, this one's for you. Let's dive in. Jackson, excited to have you here today. I want to start off with a question for a lot of our small businesses, and then we can kind of backtrack into a few more conversations, things like that. But how important is video for small businesses today?
That's a good question. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Tanner, on your podcast. And how important is video for businesses today? Did you say specifically small business?
We can start with small business.
Okay.
I think you could, in general, business, but let's talk small business first, knowing that there's a lot of small businesses out there. How important is small?
And it could be quite different, right? But we'll start with small business. So essentially, the trend that has been happening, and I've seen in my clients and other businesses, is instead of, I have a video production company for context. But instead of outsourcing video to somebody else, businesses are starting to learn how to do it themselves. Just like you're doing with this podcast and turning this into videos. You're taking on the video side, and it's not just something where we need to bring somebody in to get this video. No, it's a skill that you now have and you're developing. And that's the big shift that I think business owners need to know is making video is actually a skill that you should start investing in and start to get better at, because it's not going away anytime soon. Like, we just need more videos, and we need to make them faster, and they need to be more authentic. And the best way to do all those things is you to learn how to do them yourself. The good news is it's much, much easier to do it yourself than it used to be with all these cool tools that are coming out. So it might not be as hard as you think.
Well, I love that. And I'm really excited to dig in, talk a little about, probably some tips and tricks for the business owners that are watching and listening today. But let's share a little bit of context. Obviously, I jumped right into a question, intentionally. But for those that haven't met you, tell us a little bit about what you do and what your background is. And I think that'll kind of tie into why we're talking so much about video and video production for small business today. But give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, sounds good. I started my career, I went to film school. I wanted to be a cinematographer. That was my dream going, from 18 years old. And so I was really interested in the technical side, like the camera, the lighting, all that kind of stuff. And I started my career doing that. I did cinematography, videography, pretty much any aspects of video I could get my hands on, but very focused on the cinematography side and the camera work. Just to keep it brief, I was actually in South Korea during that part of my career. So I was very lucky in that I got a chance to work on projects like early on in my career I had no right to. Like, I was shooting a Volvo commercial, or I don't know if you've heard of 90 Day Fiancé. I was like a camera operator on a reality show that a lot of people know. And I sort of got the chance to mostly fulfill that dream of being a cinematographer early on. And the weird part about that experience is that it wasn't what I thought it was, right? When I was on these bigger sets, I didn't feel as creative as I would have liked, because you're a bit more of a cog in a machine, and it looks cool, the product looks cool, but it's a lot of a long process for each project, let's say. Did some other stuff in my career. COVID happened. I was back in the US. There's no shoots. I did sales. As you know, if you coach businesses, doing some sales is a huge help if you're a business owner. And so I didn't love the sales, but I'm so glad I did, because now that it's gotten to this point in my career, I started a video production company here in Austin, Texas, serving Austin surrounding areas. And it's been about 2 years, about a year full time of doing that. And it's me and contractors that I work with on a regular basis. And it's been going really well. And the thing that I like about it is I'm actually able, instead of having these big productions, which sometimes we, will do a commercial thing and need to have some people there. But a lot of the time it's just me working directly with business owners or people in a business, and it's just some social media video, which is not something I thought I would enjoy doing, but is also something that people need a lot of help with, and they need videos every month. So that's been one of the products that we have too, like social media video. And so it's been really fulfilling to be able to see the impact that having video for these small businesses and medium-sized businesses can kind of, the direct impact it can have, and the fact that it can be done on a more authentic, like smaller scale basis. And I'm actually really enjoying that.
That's really cool. You mentioned something in that initial response, which is that video is not going away. Right. We've seen this, especially over the last couple of years, for small businesses specifically. It's like, if you're not doing some form of video, you may be missing the boat. Now, it is really cool. We can start to do more things today as individuals than we could in the past. I think back to when I was in high school and I'm carrying around an actual like camcorder, trying to record different stuff, upload it, figure out how to edit it. And then there's no distribution channel because YouTube wasn't really like a main thing yet. And nowadays, it's such a, I wouldn't say it's an easy thing, but the access is easier. So we can get into it and start using it more. So when you're working with business owners, how do you bring this to life with them? What are some things that they should be thinking about? Is it a storytelling thing? Is it more ads? Like, how do you frame that or look at that with some of the businesses that you've worked with? That's
a good question. A lot of the time, it's hard for me to answer that on a sort of broad basis because it depends on what we want the video to do. I think it can be very helpful to start at the end of the process. And that's not always the most fun thing for people to start there, but they might have some ideas like, oh, I want to make this, I want to put this on video. But like, if you are doing it for your business, it should do something positive for your business. So for example, if we're making social media video, we might need to think about a more long-term plan, because I'm not going to mislead my clients and say, we're going to make a couple social media videos and it's going to change. You're going to get so many leads, it's going to change your business forever. That's generally not how it works. And we found that sort of planning for virality is not really a sustainable way to have a business. If you get a video that goes viral, that's great, but in social media, we start by saying like, okay, what kind of videos have worked for you if you've already done it? What kind of videos have worked for kind of competitors or people that have already implemented video in a similar business? What are they doing? And just kind of go moving through. And what do you have now? Video works best when it's, authentic to your business. So if you are a manufacturing company and you have a great facility, well, let's use those visuals. Let's go film in that place. If you are very charismatic or you're great at interviewing people like you, Tanner, then let's put that on video and find a way to turn that into video. So what are we working with now? So and then that's sort of, we work our way back to the content, which is where I got to there. It really, and there's other types of videos. You want a hero video for the front page of your website. Well, that's a bit different. We need to be flashy. We need to make sure the person has a good experience when they come to your website. It elevates your brand in that moment. We're going to be looking at something different. So I hope that answers your question.
It does.
I wish I could give you a clear cut, like, here's the...
Yeah, no, I love it. The fact that you had like really articulated the fact that it really depends on what do we want the video to do, right? And I think, at least in my experience, speaking with a lot of different small businesses specifically, I think as many businesses start to graduate up in kind of the maturity level and size, this becomes a little bit more apparent. But especially small businesses, there isn't enough focus on what is the outcome that we want to have. Is it we just want more awareness? Do we want more people to see and know about us? Is it we want people to actually fill out forms or go to our website or give us a call? Or I think that's such an important piece that is often missed in kind of the overall strategy. So if a business comes to you and they don't know, how do you guide them through that conversation to help them refine, where should we start?
That's tough because it's easier when they know, because then I can help them much easier. But I guess I would ask questions. That's the main part there is, sometimes it could be enough that you just want to elevate your brand, and it's more of like a sort of a vague, like, we just want like nice video, and if it doesn't bring us the ROI, like if I don't see, like, some people, that's fine, and then they have the budgets for that, and they just want to do that for their company. That's fine too. But we just need to be transparent and sort of open in that initial conversation, and we need to understand, like, yeah, like that's what we want. We just want the best possible visuals and video we can create about our brand. And but oftentimes you might uncover, oh, okay, what I want here is, I guess what I'm doing is sort of uncovering what's going on in their business a little bit. I'm sure a lot like what you do, but you do it way more in depth in your initial coaching sessions and working with businesses. But I need to figure out, okay, we're doing this because our marketing efforts aren't bringing enough leads. We need more leads. Like, I need to uncover that. And sometimes that just involves me asking clarifying questions. But to be honest, most of the time people come to me with something in mind. They're like, because I only do video, right? I'm not a marketing agency. The marketing agencies have to do a lot more of that, planning or figuring it out. They usually come to me, clients come to me when they're like, we've been told we need to do this, or we know we need to do this in particular, these type of videos, or this video, and they already have that in mind. So I generally deal with it in that situation, and I prefer that. I don't want to be a marketing agency.
There's a lot that comes along with that, 100%. So, there's a couple things I want to ask some questions around, kind of get into a little bit, and one of them is short form versus long form, because I think that's kind of a key consideration to think about. But then I want to say authentic. That's probably not the right word, but just I'm recording this, not high production value versus more staged, high production, things like that, and looking at kind of those two extremes. So let's start with that one, and then we'll come back to long form versus short form. So when does it make sense for somebody to just basically pull up the phone and just record something super authentically, not go through a whole bunch of editing filters and things like that, versus the other side where I want to be in a studio doing a shoot, making sure that there's really high quality production, lighting, sound, everything else that comes along with it? Mm-hmm. How does a business know, or what situations are best for each one of those types of production qualities?
That's a great question. That is a really great question. And the best way I could answer that, so just to kind of clarify the question that I'm answering. So we're saying, when do you need to pull out the big guns and maybe bring people in, or use a studio, or just kind of spend a lot more of your energy, money on a production? And when should you just maybe do it yourself, or just do it and forget about it, like just kind of spend less energy on it? I think the one question I would ask, and I would have you ask yourself, is how evergreen is this video? And by evergreen, I mean, how long is it going to be relevant? So think about it this way. If you are going to make a video for the front page of your website, like the scenario I mentioned earlier, that video is likely going to be there for a couple years or longer, right? And it's going to be seen by a lot of people, and it's generally just going to, you make it once and it's there. And if it's bad quality, it's not going to be good. But if it's great quality, it's worth the investment, the initial investment, right? So that's one. Bring me in, bring another video production company in. Think about spending more time, more money on it. If it's going to be a message, like a temporary message that's saying, we have this sale for, the month of December, and, we want to just inform everybody that, through email or through social media, and you want to make a video, that's one that's not evergreen. That's not going to be there forever. It's, you just do it, people see it, and then they're not going to see it again. So use your phone for that one, 100%. Like, take your phone out, stand near a window, give it a couple takes, and don't worry too much if you flub a line or it's not perfect, because that's okay. People don't expect that, and the people that want to buy your product and they see the sale, they're going to buy your product, even if the video is not super flashy and high quality. So that's what I would say. How evergreen is the video? If you're going to run ads, if some people make videos for meta ads or things like that, yeah, you might want to spend more time on making sure the video is good. It depends on the platform. Like if you're going to run an ad on a streaming platform, which is getting more popular these days, or even a commercial, yes, there's a certain standard of quality there. So that's another factor. But this goes back to the initial question you asked me, and when I said that it's important for us to think of video as a skill. So there are scenarios in which you need to hire people like myself or other video production companies. But there are also many scenarios in which you just need to do it yourself. And if we're talking about small business in particular, the budgets aren't always there. So it just doesn't make business sense to outsource, that hypothetical, December Christmas promo I talked about. No, do it yourself. Do it for essentially free and use of your time. Don't spend $500 to $2,000 on having somebody else do it.
I really like that. I wrote down the how evergreen is the video. I think that's a really cool way to kind of think about the context, and of course platform and different things like that.
Yeah.
Which I imagine this leads directly then into kind of long form versus short form. So short form, by and large, I would imagine is much more temporary than some of the long form stuff, especially if it's going on YouTube or what have you. How do you look at that? Is it better to do a long form and cut it up into short form stuff? Is it better to just focus on short form? Kind of what's your take on that whole scenario?
Yes. I think you'll hear a lot of people these days giving that sort of cookie cutter advice like, oh, short form's the way to go. It's just increasing. Short form's the only thing to do. I will never say that. As in many of these questions, I'm going to give you an unsatisfactory, it's context-specific answer, but I'll go a little bit into that. First off, if it depends, like you said, it depends on the platform. It depends on who you. Well, let's start. I think most importantly, the thing about video, and when I started this interview, thinking about it as a skill and something you need to do a lot, you need that consistency. You need to find a way that works uniquely for you and your business to incorporate video on a consistent basis. And that's generally what everybody's starting to do, but you're going to find your own unique way. Like you, Tanner, are doing, I'm sure, I don't know other video that you do. I'm sure you have I don't know too much about your business, but this is one of your strategies is you have podcasts, you make video podcasts, it's long form, and then you turn it into short form. And that makes it go much farther. But maybe you wouldn't enjoy it if you were just making the short form, like the TikToks, and you were sitting in front of your setup right now, and you were like, I got to talk about a current trend in business every day and make a little 30-second video. I don't know if you've tried that, but maybe that wouldn't work for you. Maybe you'd love to do that. You need to find the type of video that you can actually consistently do.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to work for you.
Yeah, I want to jump on that for a second because it is a really important thing, and it's something that I've definitely gone through. Right, as you mentioned, we're doing a lot of podcast stuff like this, and that gets turned into shorts. But part of that was really because what am I good at, or what am I most comfortable at? Over time, it gets better. So I don't know if "good's" the right word, but what am I most comfortable at? And I've done a lot of short form, direct to camera type stuff. I find personally I'm not as good at it. I can do it. It's okay, but it's not as good as if I'm actually having a conversation with someone. If I'm in conversation, that tends to work best. So, outside of things like what we're doing here today, I found that sitting down with another team member and doing something similar where we're just bantering back and forth on a topic, I'm way better at that than I am just talking about that topic individually. So I've kind of learned that over the last, I don't know, probably 2-ish years of consistently posting and putting videos out there.
Yeah.
That's what's worked for me. Now, I know some other folks that get having the conversation, doing podcast type stuff, like not their thing at all. They'd much rather just like, nope, here's my 3 bullet points of what I need to teach and move on. So that's what's worked.
I just want to script out everything. Some of my clients will do that, but sometimes it's like, no, let me just wing it, and that's going to work best. I want to ask you on that topic. So I think there can be a perception when we say, you should try doing video for your business. They might see what you're doing, Tanner, and say, wow, I want to be doing that too. But I think it's important for them to recognize, like you said, 2 years you've been making videos. I would love to learn a bit more about how you got to this process you're doing now with video, and maybe the difficulties of it too, which people might not have seen.
Yeah, no, I actually love that. And it ties directly back to what you said at the beginning, which is video is a skill, right? So I'll take you back to probably about 2-ish years ago now. We were running we've got another podcast series that we run called the Business Spotlight. And now I've got team members that are doing it on kind of my behalf. But I started it in our firm here locally, having conversations with business owners, very similar to kind of what we're doing here today. And I go back and I look at some of those first videos, things like that. And it took me probably 20 to 25 consistent interviews before I kind of started to find my voice and figure out how to have good conversations and be really comfortable on camera. It just wasn't there before. I take it back to any other skill that you have to learn, whether it's sales calls, learning how to do things in marketing, delivering on your product or service. It just takes volume. It takes reps. You just have to go through it over and over and over again, figure out what works, what doesn't, get comfortable with the fact that it's not going to be great right away, and then just continue to work at it. Because if you do 100 reps of something, the likelihood of you getting a little bit better is pretty high. So that was, in a nutshell, like that's what happened. I sat down and said, nope, I'm going to do this. This is how this is going to work. We need to create the content. It's great to have conversations. Like, this is what it's going to be. I have to figure out how to get good at it. And if that means I'm reading a script to start, so be it. And then eventually I kind of naturalize it. But it took time. And if you go back and you look at early videos, it's like, yeah, they're okay. But there's some stumbling. There's some things that aren't as good. And I've seen that with my team too. We've hired some podcasters that do stuff similar to this on our team, and they had to go through that same type of a process. They had to learn it. They had to go through and do the reps. Fortunately, they got the training on the front end before they ever had to do anything live. We went through a lot of role play and got them comfortable, so they were a little bit better on camera right away than I was. But it's the same process kind of broken down into, we just got to get the reps in and do it and know that the first view is not going to be great. And that's okay, because it means we learn and we move forward with it.
And like you said, you sort of realized I'm better at this type of video or in this circumstance when I'm filming. And the only way you found that out is by trying those different types of videos. So 100%, do it badly at first. Just don't expect perfection, and it'll be worth it in the long run, especially if you can find a way to enjoy it. Like, that's one thing. So one of the services I've started to offer more is actually helping people learn video. And that's not something I initially thought I would be a service, but I have found that that's probably the most useful thing. So I can actually even come into a business and, do it for them and with them and help them transition. But I find that is very helpful, but you need to just take that attitude of just do it badly. It's just not going to be what you imagine in your head usually right off the bat. And that's completely okay. It's like, if you are, I don't know if you've played any instruments, but like I learned piano from like a young age, and we did started with chopsticks, that song with like the 2 fingers, and that's where we all start. You don't just sit down at the piano and just knock out some Bach right away. It's just not how it works. Yeah. So I think that's a very important thing, and you've hit on that, and that's really important for people to think about.
Yeah, and I think when you recognize, if I had to go back and I had to think about like what are some of the fears, and I imagine some of the fears like, well, what if people don't like it? What if people say negative things? Yeah. What if? Yeah. But then you kind of have to take the step back and realize, if the video is not good, especially in short form, it's not even going to get served. Like, people just aren't even going to see it. Yeah. So like, you're not even going to get negative feedback. People aren't going to see it at all. So that's okay. It gives you a ton of time to be able to take the reps in without any negative feedback other than your own, because the platforms themselves are going to actually look at what's good and what do people actually want to see, and they're going to serve that more than the things that aren't good. So it's actually a little less stressful when you kind of put it in that context.
I love that. I hadn't thought about that, like explaining it that way before, but that makes a lot of sense. So if you do a bad job, people won't see it. Don't worry. Well, and even if they do, it's I think that obviously this is more like psychology, but people just care a lot less about you than you think. Not in like sort
It's
of
so true,
you don't
though.
matter type of way, but they're paying a lot less attention to you than you're paying to you. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry. And I genuinely, and people that are people you want to work with, and this might be a bit like naive and like positive, but I just generally the people that you want to work with, and maybe like business owners like yourself, we all know that we appreciate effort into things, and it doesn't, and we can see, like, we know everybody starts somewhere, and like we're not gonna fault somebody for trying unless you're saying something like crazy in your video, or you're like getting super political about certain things that people like triggers people or whatever it is. Like, yeah, be careful about some of that stuff. But generally, if you're just trying to give some value or talk about something interesting and it doesn't work out that well, like most people that you want to work with and that are going to be like, oh, that's cool, like, and just be fine with it.
Yeah, I was talking with it was another marketing person a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the advent of or acceleration of video, AI integrated video, things like that, and authenticity really kind of came up in that conversation. Yeah. And especially being here locally, right? So, I look at even the videos that I have. It's not like there's a huge, look at like view count and things like this. There's nothing big. Like I know where we stand, right? Yeah. But the key is when I'm out in public, there's a few people that'll be like, hey, I've seen your stuff. I see it on LinkedIn. I see it on YouTube. I see it on these different things, which creates that human connection offline. Yes. So if you're thinking of, local businesses, especially here in the Austin, Round Rock, Cedar Park, Leander, Georgetown type community, right? You're out and about. They see all of your stuff online because that's where they're spending a lot of their time. But if they see you offline, AI can't replicate that. So, you take full spectrum, you see, okay, I messed up on a video. I don't, maybe people saw it, but that shows authenticity. It's not, staged, not produced. It shows that there is authenticity there. And then they also get to meet you offline. And now all of a sudden we've got this marriage of the two worlds. People buy from, people they know, like, and trust. That really creates that on both offline and online. Yeah.
Well, 100%. I'm really glad you touched on that, because I was actually thinking before this conversation, that's something I wanted to bring up, is the connection between online video and actually in person and your network and the people you know. Because you just hit it right on the head. Like, those two in combination is very powerful for your business. Very powerful. And I think sometimes people have the misconception that video online, it just goes out into the ether and it reaches, it's designed for people you've never met before. And, I'm not saying that you can't reach new people with your online video through these algorithms, but a huge value in creating videos for your business or for yourself is the people that you already know or already met seeing you. And it doesn't need to be people that know you well. Like, what that is, just to uncover a bit of my marketing strategy, that's probably the thing that's worked the best for me, is going to lots of networking or business events, but then consistently putting out video and having that connection with them online as well. Because they meet me, right? Somebody meets me, and then if everybody's going to business events, they're meeting a bunch of people. Like, you meet so many people and you never hear from them again. If you have some good sales, system, you'll reach out or maybe try to work to connect with them more. But if they see one video or they see a couple videos, like maybe you added them on LinkedIn and they see a video on LinkedIn, they remember who you are. And regardless of what's in your video, that video has served you well. Because then the next time they meet you in person or you see them, then they know who you are. Like, it's a very small thing, but I think it makes a huge difference as you're trying to grow your business.
Oh yeah, it really does. It makes so much more of a difference than I think people recognize.
Yes.
Like I said, I only have my own anecdotal evidence to back up and support it. But 2 weeks ago, something like that, we ran a small workshop here in the office. A bunch of people I've never met before. They sit down and one of them it was like, hey, I think I've seen you before. I'm like, oh, she's like, do you put a lot of stuff online? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm like, oh, so she's one of the 200 people that see it. That's cool. But it immediately already started to create a bond. There was a level of credibility and trust that was already there because of it. And I think that's the key. Like, you still have to get into sales conversations, still have to do all that kind of stuff. But by and large, people are going to do some level of research today. Yeah. So if they can see some things that's more than just, a headline on a website, they can actually see you in action or see your team in action.
Yeah.
That creates that credibility. People want to do business with folks that they can relate to.
One, I know it's a bit of a challenge for my business in a sense, and for video production businesses, because so video is usually not, to be honest, it's not the thing that closes the sale. It's not like I send you a video and you put in your information. Yes, you can do that. There's pipelines where you can make that happen. Video sales letters and things like that. But for the most part, it's just like you said. It primes people. They think you're more trustworthy, or they know a little bit about you. They remember who you are. All of those things. And then they come in contact in some other part of your business strategy, and then they become a client. And it's tough because it can be hard to connect the work we're doing with businesses and the video we're making with them directly to their bottom line, because it's usually not the last touch point that causes the sale, but it would have never got there if the videos hadn't been there. So I don't know if you've noticed that for any of the businesses that you coach or for yourself. Like how are you able to decide, or what are your thoughts on how you can connect the video that you're making to your bottom line? How have you been thinking about that?
So I think about it a couple different ways, and it comes back to what you had said before, which is like, what do we want the video to do, right? If we're just putting content out there for, I don't want to say content's sake, but it kind of is. If I'm putting it out there in terms of credibility, then a lot of it is listening for, did you see this? Did you hear this? Did you, were there touch points that were happening outside of kind of our traditional sales process? And some of that you can capture by seeing view counts and engagements and things like that, and then correlate it. It's not a direct connection, but there can be some correlation with it. If we see view counts go up dramatically, but we also see our conversion rates go up as a correlated factor, then we can create some things there.
Yeah.
Harder. It's not great, but there is some of that there. What I really love is looking at using it in a couple ways. The first one being in the sales process itself. Like, why send just a basic email today when you can send a video, or both, or send an email with a video in it? Some people are very visual learners and they capture information that way. Some people are auditory. They want to listen to a podcast. Like, give them the tools that they communicate in best. So send those. So if you're already creating content for other things, just take the best ones, put them in a place that fits in your sales process. Now you can track, when I send these, is my conversion rate higher or lower? And we can start to see kind of correlations there. The third way I love to use it then is if I am producing content and I'm pushing it out on social media and there is engagements, right? Somebody comments, somebody likes the post, somebody does something where I can see who it was that liked it, whatever.
Yeah.
Send them a message and just say, hey, saw that you liked this post, saw that you liked this video. What was your favorite thing about it? All of a sudden you've started a conversation. Now you've got a lead.
That's smart,
right?
I like that.
It's a way that the video itself or the content itself doesn't necessarily convert them, but it opens the door enough that you can start a conversation, and a conversation is what's going to lead to further downstream results. Again, with enough volume. Doesn't mean everyone's going to convert, but at least get to have that conversation that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Well said. So you could say that when you're able to see some metrics of if they liked it or who viewed your video, it's just a way for you to judge interest in you and what you're talking about, or whatever the subject was, or your company. And then you can use that to kind of capitalize on that and find the people that are actually potentially wanting to be clients or could be good clients.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And if you think about it if you're someone out there that's creating content on a bunch of different, I don't want to say a bunch of different topics, but subtopics within your niche, whatever your business is. Obviously, we're in a very informational based industry, so it's easy to kind of think about a bunch of different things we teach on. But this goes in most industries. If you're teaching on 3 different things, and you put videos out on all 3 of them, which one gets the most views? Which one gets the most engagement? Which one struck a chord with the audience? That's the one to double down on. Whether it's running ads on that, picking keywords 100%. Out of it. If you got to run a workshop or a seminar, pick it on the topic that people are actually interested in.
Yes.
And it all of a sudden it becomes a market research tool more than anything else.
That's 100%. Like when I have conversations with people who are wanting to run paid ads, like I said, we're not a marketing agency, so I refer them to somebody else to actually do that. But video ads are big, right? But how do you decide what to run your video ads? Like exactly like you said, if you have an organic video presence already, that makes running ads way easier because you know, oh, okay, people liked these videos more about these things, or this was hitting harder, and let's just use those for our put our paid ad money into those things. So 100%, that's an insight that I think will be useful to anybody thinking about that side of it.
Yeah. So as we start to kind of wrap up the conversation, I want to give a couple practical tips for the audience. So we talked a little bit about video production. We talked about kind of when it makes sense to bring somebody in. I'm going to highly encourage everyone in the audience, if you're thinking about video, reach out to Jackson, whether it's something that you got to outsource or you just need some tips and tricks, like talk to Jackson, let him walk you through it. But as we think about this here, what if you could distill it down into 2 or 3 kind of takeaway tips for somebody, for a small business owner that needs to start doing some stuff within video, whether it's how do I set some things up properly, what should I be thinking about? But if you could distill that down into 2 or 3 things that the audience could take away, what would you want to leave them with?
Well, let's focus. I'll focus on people making videos themselves, since that's something everybody can do, and I think everybody should do. So my advice to you would be so first of all, start making videos, and start where it's easiest. So when I say that, I say make a video about something you're already doing. I think people often have this idea that they need to sit down in front of a setup like ours, where you're in front of your camera in a room. You have something you're saying. No, film something that is already happening. Like if you're a ice cream shop, film yourself making ice cream. Like it's already in front of you. So start there. If you have events, you said, Tanner, you had an event in your office, right? A lot of businesses do that. Film just some stuff on your phone of the event and make that into a video. Like start with something that's already happening in your business and start there. And just from real kind of practical starting place, use your phone, use daylight, like try to film where, when in front of a window or where it's a bit brighter, but phones are getting pretty good in the dark these days, so that's fine too. For an editing software, I guess the best place to start would probably be CapCut. It's one that is a software that I think it's the most used in the world now, probably by a large margin. But there's a free version. Download that. So it's super easy. You just take the clips from your phone, put them into that app on your phone, and it has all the things that you might want, little captions or little transitions, and it makes it easy. So play around with that, have some fun with that. And the last thing is, a video doesn't matter until it's posted. I know there's the fear. I know there's like, I don't want to be judged. I didn't look good. I didn't like the way I said that. You just need to post it. And I have nothing else to say about that. Like, just don't give yourself too much time, like sitting on a video. Try to just, as soon as it's done, post it. And just getting into that circular habit, film things that are already happening, edit it, post it as quickly as possible. And you'd be surprised by the reaction you might get and what you might enjoy doing. So I think that's a good place to start.
Those are excellent tips, and I 100% echo them. From a marketing standpoint, there's nothing like getting the feedback, right?
Yeah. You
got to get the feedback in order to get better. So
exactly.
You just got to take the action and do the work.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Jackson, how can the viewers and the listeners, how can they get in contact with you if they want to learn more about what you do, if they want to get in connection with you, do some business with you down the road? Where can we advise them to go for more information, and how can they get in contact?
Yeah. Well, my company's called JTX Media. So if you go to jtxmedia.com, you can find some of our work, any other information about our services. We have a newsletter that's weekly that especially if you're making your own video, I send out a lot of tips on like how to do that better, software that you might like. I just did an email on like the AI software that we're using because there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. So you just get a simple, valuable email to your inbox. That's a good way to kind of keep in touch with us. And you can also just schedule a meeting with me on the website. I'm also on LinkedIn too. So I'm pretty active there. So definitely reach out if you have any questions. Just like Tanner said earlier, I love helping people with video, even if you're not a paid client, and just giving value. So I'd be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Amazing. And I'm going to highly encourage everyone to stop what you're doing as soon as we finish this video and go sign up for the newsletter. I mean, if there's some valuable nuggets, obviously it's important to stay on top of these types of things. So highly encourage you all do that, and then reach out, especially on LinkedIn, connect with Jackson, send him a direct message, say, hey, saw you on the podcast. Great conversation. Just wanted to say hi. I think that's a really big piece as we move through here. So Jackson, this has been absolutely amazing. I know that I could sit here and probably do another hour with you and go deep. But this has been, I think we've got some good action items, things like that. So I appreciate you being here and sharing the information with all of us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Tanner. I love this format, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. And you had some great questions that I'm hoping will be very valuable to people. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course.
Awesome.